This week's edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight is brought to you by Leff Atlanta Media, Atlanta's best journalist database. Subscribe at leffsatlantamedia.com. Welcome to the next edition of our Four Questions Journalist Spotlight. We are talking today with Tyrik Wynn, who is a young journalist in town who is currently working with the Black Information Network. Good morning, Tyrik. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? I'm great, man.
I'm good. I'm good. Well, thanks for taking a little time. So
Of course.
I there's a couple of folks in town that I've been wanting to talk to you for a while, and you're one of them. And
Thank you.
there's a couple of folks who said, I need to get through the election first before I can have 5 minutes to spare. So thank you. So we're through that at least for now, right? For a little bit.
Yeah.
But so you are a reporter and anchor with the Black Information Network. Is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So talk to me about I guess we call it BIN for short, right? So what is BIN? How does that work, and what's it all about?
Yeah, well, first, thank you so much for having me. It's a great to be here. I've seen a whole bunch of these. I've seen a lot of my friends on, a lot of my journalism friends on. So
Oh, good.
I'm excited to be here as well. But yeah, I'm with the Black Information Network, your home for 24/7 news. So really what we are a national radio station. So we have various stations in different major cities around the country. And so what we do is we tell Black stories from a Black perspective, right? So most of the stories that we do are catered to the Black community. And then all of our anchors that are telling these stories are also Black as well. So that's where it comes from, the Black perspective. So we're giving our perspective on these various stories. But we have different beats and a lot of different cities. So I know my Pacific beat, I have a health beat where I do national health news. I also do this thing, we call it the Washington Roundup. So that is when I tell stories about the latest news coming out of Washington, latest election news. As of right now, what is in store for President-elect Trump. And then I'll talk about that, maybe a couple of things that President Biden is doing, Vice President Harris are doing. Talk about that in my Washington Roundup segment. And then I also have my Georgia beat. So my primary cities for that are Macon, Augusta, and Columbus. And so I tell stories that are happening out of those communities. And then we actually have stations in those various cities. And then, like I said, a couple of different stations across the country as well. But I love what I do, love connecting with the viewer, connecting with the community. And it's been great. I just passed my 1 year anniversary at BIN a couple of weeks ago.
Hey, that's cool. That their first years, it's great to get to that point. So and so in Atlanta,
Hmm.
I hear BIN on what is 640 AM,
Yep, 640.
what used to be WGST here in Atlanta, which is now WBIN radio. Are there other stations in Atlanta where folks here will hear BIN stories?
Yeah, so 640 AM is the primary Atlanta station. So if you're driving around town, you can turn on 640 AM and that's where you can hear the Atlanta station. Let's say if you're not in the car and you still want to hear us, of course you can download the free iHeartRadio app. And then once you go on there, you can type in Black Information Network, or you can type in, that gives you like the national spectrum. So pretty much everything that's going on. If you want it, the catered Atlanta station, you can just type in WBIN 640 or Black Information Network, and then all the stations will come up, and then you can find that Pacific Atlanta station. Or if you're in another city and you want to see if we have a station in that certain city, then you can scroll and then you can figure out what that city is, and then find that city name, and then you can get news specifically catered to that city as well.
Okay. Yeah, usually if I work with you guys on a segment, I tend to see get picked up all around the country, like hundreds and hundreds of hits around the country, because it repeats every half hour, every hour, so you get the kind of the stories over and over kind of effect, which is what we like, right?
Of course.
And then of course around the state, you've got state radio stations that I'm sure are using the feed as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that one thing we're doing is we are expanding, and because we started, I'm not sure if people know, but we recently just started this thing where we do this thing, we call them 60-second updates, and then we also have 15-second trending updates as well. And so what we've done is we have reformatted those, and so we are currently expanding with that. I'm not sure if I can get too deep into it as
Yeah,
far as
that's right.
what
That's
the
right.
expansion
Yeah.
is, but we are expanding that, and so hopefully, we'll be able to take this thing to a whole nother level. But I'm really excited about this new expansion that we're working on, and we're also started releasing a newsletter too, that goes to our subscribers' emails and stuff too, which I think is so cool. It gives people a visual aspect, of it, and gives people an opportunity to read. Sometimes you may have listen sometimes you may have people, an audience who maybe doesn't like to listen, maybe they just want to read. And so we have an aspect there where they can either go to our website, look at some of the articles, or they can subscribe to our newsletter, and they can get updates from there as well.
Yeah, I think I want to say I just started getting that newsletter, and I think I saw it.
Yeah,
I was like, okay, is this new?
yeah, that's brand new, just
Okay.
flushed out.
All right. Okay. So sometimes I think, have I been missing this all the time, or is this a new thing? So okay. So I'm not entirely crazy. Well, not entirely. Somewhat, but probably not entirely. Depends who you ask. Um, and so most of your format is kind of a fairly short form, but is there a long form? Kind of talk about the kind of long form versus short form programming.
Yeah, so when it comes to the long form programming, what we have on the weekends is we have this podcast called The Black Perspective, right? And so that'll air on the weekends. And so sometimes I'll do content for that. So when it comes to me doing content for that, what I'm usually doing is I usually do interviews with people. So I'm connected with a lot of publicists around the city. And so the publicists send me interviews and stuff. And so 9 times out of 10, it's a big time celebrity interview that I'm doing. And so that'll usually go on the Black Perspective, right? And so
Okay.
just a couple of people from the past, I have had CeeLo Green, who came on a couple of weeks ago. We had Congresswoman Nakima Williams, who came right before the election. Let me see, who else have we had? We've had the OMG girls, who were just reconnected, girl singing group and stuff. Candy Burrs from the Housewives and
Yep.
all that good stuff. So I've had a lot of those people come on, and so I'll do a interview with them, and then that'll go on the Black Perspective. So we have that far long form content, and then we also have the Black Information Network daily podcast, which is hosted by Ramses Ja. And so what Ramses does is, and I think his position is so cool. So what he does is he literally hosts this podcast, right? And so on this podcast, just talk about the latest news, the latest trending news, right? And so the guests for the podcast will actually be anchors like myself. And so we'll come on the podcast. I know for me, sometimes I'll come on every other Monday, and I'll come on the podcast, and him and I will sit and we'll talk about the latest trending news stories or the most popular trending news stories. And this is the opportunity where we have a chance to give our opinion, right? Because usually, in journalism, and you don't usually get to give your opinion
Right.
sometimes.
Sure.
So
It's
this
all
is
about it's all about
yeah,
reporting, not what you think about it. All right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that podcast is an opportunity where we can give our take on the actual story, which I love, because sometimes it's doing news is so serious, and you got to be unbiased and stuff. This time we get a chance to be just a little bit biased. So I love doing that. But I would say those are pretty much the long form content that we do. That's a couple minutes long. So.
So if folks have story ideas, is it best to just email you? Is that kind of the easiest way to get ideas to you?
Yeah, so they can either send an email if they want to give story ideas. So my specific email is TYRIKWYNN at iHeartMedia.com. Or if they want to, another way they can submit tips is they can go to our website and they can just scroll down to the bottom, and then they have a tab where you can do contact us, send news tips, and all that good stuff
Yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah. Kind of, and that probably just goes to a general editorial team, and lots of folks will
Yep.
see that, and
Mhm.
somebody will pick it up, that kind of thing. Okay. Um, so obviously we've got no lack of topics, right? You know, because usually I ask what are some upcoming stories, but there are so many, right? What is a looking at kind of an issue or a topic that you want to be following over the next, say, 3 or 4 months? Is there anything that jumps out at you and said, I really need to be following this story?
Yep, Donald Trump. Yep,
Okay.
just go keep it plain and simple,
Yeah.
man. Historic election, by the way, which I thoroughly, let me tell you, I this is my first presidential election as a professional journalist, and I enjoyed every moment of it. It was so exciting, man. I definitely enjoyed it. It was definitely an exciting time to be a journalist for sure. But yeah, this is definitely what I'm following because, like I told you, I do this segment called the Washington Roundup, right? So that's pretty much what I've been talking about for the past couple of days is Trump and him about to head into office and the things that he plans to do and stuff like that. So that's pretty much the biggest story that I'm following, and how his of course how we got to cater it to the black community, so how his presidency could potentially affect the black community and things that he said that he has in place for the black community and all those sorts of things. And so this is the next thing that I'm going to be following for the next couple of months, all the way until inauguration day. And so of course, and then of course the 100 days after that we'll be heavily focused in on that. But I would say that is definitely definitely the top thing. And then also, if we're talking about lighthearted news, one thing I do want to focus on is I know there are a lot of people in my community who enjoy giving back around this time. We have a lot of celebrities that enjoy giving back around Christmas and Thanksgiving time. So I do plan to highlight some of those things as well, bring in some of those people who are doing some good give back projects, turkey giveaways or whatever the case may be, food, all that good stuff. So that's one thing that I do want to focus on going into the holiday season. So
Yeah.
you'll probably see some of those stories come out as well.
So looking back on the last year or so on the campaign trail, is there an event or a moment that kind of sticks out in your mind as like, wow, this was a historic, amazing room to be in or a place to be from either campaign. What sticks out in your mind?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you asked that. My favorite moment and the thing that stuck out to me the most was being in the motorcade with Vice President Kamala Harris. That was probably the most exciting moment of my entire journalism career. Now, I know I haven't been in the game that long, only a couple of years, but it was so exciting to be in that moment, to be part of the press pool, and that was so historic. And because and I'll just kind of give you a rundown on how the day went. So I remember we got to the airport. We got checked by Secret Service, got sniffed by the dogs, all that good stuff, right? And then from there we gathered in the motorcade, went in the motorcade, loaded up, got in, then waited to till Vice President Harris got there, and then when she got there, we went under her airplane's wing and we waited for her, watched her get off the plane, watched her greet some dignitaries that were off to the side as well, and then she got in the car, and then she did an interview, went back to the airport to do an interview with Club Shay Shay, so we waited on that, and then from there we went to her rally where she had President Obama. Who else did she have? She had Tyler Perry, and so some other great people at that rally as well. So that was a really exciting rally to be at, and then I had a chance to do a couple of interviews with some people there as well. But just to be in that moment was so exciting. I was so thrilled. I was taking it all in. I had a smile on my face the whole time. I mean, you could just tell, like, yo, this guy is really enjoying himself. that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
that's how that was. That was really exciting for me.
Do you sometimes feel like, okay, gotta focus. Yeah, I'm here to work. I gotta, I'm
Yeah.
taking it all in. I'm seeing all this stuff, but I got a job to do and gotta keep myself on focus.
That definitely, and that's one of those things when you're doing something like that, you have to stay focused because when it comes to being part of that press pool, everything is fast paced, quick, very timely, right? Because one thing that they told us is when she's in the car and she's ready to go, we're going. If you're not in the car, like you're getting left, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so, and that's really important because they said we can't just have her sitting, right? Because, she's a sitting target, right? So they can't just have her just sitting in one spot because that's dangerous. So, she has to constantly be moving about. She can't just constantly be in one place and all that good stuff, which is understandable, right? Because she is the vice president.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, a lot of that stuff is very timely. You have to be on time. You have to be early, right? And when they say it's time to go, it's time to go. It's no lagging behind. You will get left. That was one of the things that they stressed the most. So you definitely got to be focused and honed in on what's going on for sure.
So you've got some other than BIN, you've got some other things that you're working on. Is that correct?
I do, yeah.
So
So
let's talk about some of that.
of course, yeah. So a couple of other things that I'm doing is I also do true crime television. That's my television aspect in my journalism career. So what I do is you'll see me commentating sometimes on television shows like Snapped on Oxygen or Fatal Attraction and For My Man on TV1. I'm on those shows quite frequently as well. Do a couple of those throughout the year, and then what I also do is also have my production company called Wynn Productions LLC, where we specialize in video production services and professional videography services from drone and aerial filming to television commercials, event filming, customer testimony videos, and all that good stuff. And then also within the production company, I create my own original television programming as well, where I have taken some shows and aired them on stations like AIB here in Atlanta as well. And then I'm speaking of AIB, I'm also the vice president of digital for the Atlanta Association of Black Journalists, and I'm also an anchor for our show called In Contact, and that show airs on AIB as well. So definitely very involved in NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists. That's the national chapter. AABJ, Atlanta Association of Black Journalists, is the affiliate chapter. So I'm the vice president there. And then also recently just stepped into a role for NABJ, the Digital Journalism Task Force chair. So I'm that as well. So I'm involved in a lot of things, right?
So
So,
sleeping is for when you're older, right?
oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
we'll get to that. We'll get to who needs to sleep, right? Get
yeah.
get stuff to do. Get stuff to do. All right, so let's go to the lightning round now. So these are the more sometimes these are the more challenging questions for people, right? So the hardest question I always ask folks is, what is the coolest thing about you that people might not know about? And that could be a hobby or a talent or things you collect, anything like that.
Yeah, I'm very adventurous, right? So I love doing all kinds of adventurous stuff, which I think some people know, but not a whole lot of people know. But I'm very adventurous. So I'm a big roller coaster person. I love roller coasters, going around the country to different amusement parks. I love doing that. I also love different nature stuff like fishing. I just recently picked up playing pickleball, right?
Sure.
Yeah, that's fun. That's exciting. I like to play tennis sometimes. I actually played tennis back in high school, but recently picked it back up. And then I like a little hiking sometimes too. And then I'm also a gambler. I like to go to the casino sometimes too. So I go down to the Cherokee and Biloxi and Vegas. I love all that stuff.
What's the most on the edge adventure thing that you've done recently?
Ooh, I would say for my birthday recently, my friends and we rented a lake house, and so we were out on the lake, and there was this big rock, and I seen people jumping off of it. I was like, "Yo, wait, let's pull over because I want to jump off the big rock." And I ain't never jumped off a
Your
rock
friends are
before.
like, we're not gonna jump off a rock. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy, right? And I was like, "Yo, I'm going to do it." And so I went and jumped off the big rock, scared out of my mind, but I did it, and I'm glad I faced my fear.
There you go. All right. So, last book that you've read.
Last book that I've read. Oh, actually, I got it right here. Right here. This is the last book that I read. It is Preparing CEOs for Success, What I Wish I Knew. So it's not, I'm actually actively reading it now. So this is just teaching me how to be a better CEO within Wynn Productions and my company and stuff. So
All
just
right,
getting
so
some
we'll circle back when you're done. You can give us
more.
best tips from that. All right, favorite local restaurant.
Ooh, favorite restaurant. I would say definitely Maggiano's for sure.
Oh, yeah, okay, good choice. Favorite guilty pleasure.
Guilty pleasure. Ooh, man. Dairy Queen strawberry cheesecake blizzards. Oh my
All right,
God.
oh, that's a good one. All right, so I noticed that you like to travel. So is there? And I think you went to Cartagena recently. Is that what I
I
saw? All
did. I
right.
did.
Is
Yeah.
there a local getaway that you like? Some place you like to go to, to chill and get away from work a little bit?
Yeah, Lake Oconee. I would say if I'm picking a local place here in Georgia, Lake Oconee would definitely be the spot because my friend, like I was saying, my friend has a lake house there, and so sometimes we go there to just like we're going there for Friendsgiving this week, right? And so we'll spend a couple of days out there, and so that would be my favorite local spot to get away.
Okay. And favorite non-work hobby?
Non-work hobby. Let me see. It would probably have to be, yeah, it would probably have to be fishing. I love fishing, catching fish. I love going deep sea fishing. That is exciting because who knows what you're gonna catch when you're out there in the ocean.
Yeah. Well, have you caught anything really big?
Let's see. I remember I caught this really big grouper when I recently went a couple of back in. I think it was back in August when I went. And the thing is, they have all these rules out there in the ocean, and certain things have to be a certain size. And I'm like, this fish is big. And they was like, it's not big enough, so you got to throw it back. That's the only thing I like about deep sea fishing. They got all these rules.
Gotta protect the fish, right? You want to make sure there's enough for future generations, right?
Absolutely.
Are there yeah, let's talk about kind of we talked about giving back a little bit. Are there groups around Atlanta that you really like that you think, okay, we want to give a shout out to this nonprofit or this group that I really like? I work with the Boys and Girls Clubs, for example. Is there a
Yeah.
group that you really like that you think is deserving of more time and more attention from folks?
Of course. Yeah, yeah. So one thing that I attend every year, I always attend this gala for Connecting Henry, and that is an organization out of Henry County. That I always go to, and so they have this yearly gala, but they're doing some amazing things in the community, and they're helping people get back on their feet, right? And so I love that organization, and my mom is actually a board member for that organization as well. So we're it's kind of like a family thing where we're involved in that. And then, of course, there are some other ones that I've worked with in the past. The Atlanta Community Food Bank. I've helped pack food there a couple of times within my years, and then also I've volunteered at the Ronald McDonald House a couple of times as well. So done some work with them, and then yeah, I would say that's yeah, those are some of the organizations that I've been involved with.
Ronald McDonald House is a great one, and I think people don't always realize that there are opportunities to volunteer there. We've gone over there and brought food or cooked food for the families, that kind of thing, as they're coming in, especially over the holidays. Um, that's a really good one. Um, so Connect Henry, is that sponsored by, is that kind of through the county, or is that a separate nonprofit?
So yeah, it's a separate nonprofit. However, like the city of McDonough, I know the city of McDonough has provided them with a building and stuff.
Okay.
So the city and the county is involved with them, but it is its own nonprofit
Gotcha,
organization.
gotcha. Okay. Is there anything else we haven't talked about, either about BIN, your work, other projects that you want to mention that I forgot to ask about?
Yeah, no, I just want to say that this has been great, and I definitely appreciate you so much for having me on. I would say, maybe a thing that we haven't talked about. I would say a lot of people always try to figure this out, so I'll go ahead and talk about this. A lot of people always try to figure out, okay, how is Tyrik going on all these trips? But I always see him working hard, right? So I'll go ahead and just tell everybody what I do. So
All
the
right.
great thing about BIN is we can either be remote or we could be at the studio, right? I went on like a 7 day cruise. I couldn't get the days off because it was during the Democratic National Convention, right? And so I was doing newscasts in the middle of the ocean on a cruise ship. So that is the greatest. So I would say that's like the great things about being with BIN and being with iHeartRadio is the fact that we can be remote and we can also be in person, which I love because it gives me the freedom to just be able to take trips whenever I want, and I love it. So sometimes when I do go on these vacations, sometimes I actually am working. When I'm actually not out doing stuff, I'm actually in the hotel room working sometimes. But then when I'm not working, of course, I'm out and about and having fun in whatever city I am. But I'm a really
That's
big traveler.
that's great. That's awesome. Well, and that's good. And technology allows us to be a little more flexible like that. So we
Yeah.
can have a little more balance. We have been talking with Tyrik Wynn with the Black Information Network, BIN. Thank you, Tyrik, for taking
Thank
some
you.
time today. We really appreciate it. And as always, if you're watching this on YouTube, click the subscribe button. If you're watching it on audio on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or anything like that, click the like button, click the subscribe button. And as always, you can find our archive of Four Questions Journalist Spotlights on YouTube and all of your favorite streaming channels. Wherever streaming things are found, you can find the Journalist Spotlight. And of course, if you're looking for our database of Atlanta media, go to leftsatlantamedia.com and click the subscribe button, and you'll get not only access to the database of media, we got like 1,500, 2,000 journalists in there. You also get access to our Mitch's Media Musings newsletter that goes out middle of every month, where we write about all the interesting things and awards and recognitions and achievements of our journalist community. So again, thank you everyone for joining us, and we will see everyone in 2 weeks.